Chapter 2, Part 2. Living in shortage. After a day's worth of driving on the bus, my parents were dropped off in Poland in a certain camp, where they were given a room to settle in. They stayed there for a week. Towards the end of the week, Mom and Dad were informed that in 2 hours they had to be getting ready to fly on Soviet Union airplane that did not allow my parents to have their entire luggage. Dad found out the next airplane that was picking people up after their assigned plane was a fancy Boeing airplane and larger in size. Dad insisted to the administrators that they should be permitted on that plane, which allowed them to have their entire luggage instead of going on the small airplane. The administration wouldn't hear of it, so Dad told Mom that he was going to be back, and if they were to call, that she was to insist on not leaving by any shape or form. Then he left to sell certain stuff in the outskirts of the camp. Meanwhile, Mom took advantage of that moment to change my clothes and wash me. The amazing factor to note is that their food, their ticket, their flight, their stays, all had been subsidized by the graciousness of the Israeli government committee called Sachnut. Dad was in control of all the finances, and Mom completely trusted him. After Mom took care of me, she decided to take a walk through the camp. On the way, Mom saw a woman who was hanging diapers and had a small child like Mom, and Mom decided to greet her with a question. "Are you not scared to immigrate to foreign places with your little one?" The lady quickly answered in Polish that she was with her parents and disappeared. Although Mom didn't speak Polish very well, she understood. Afterwards, Dad's name, Leonid Ostrovsky, was announced to come to room 30. Mom decided to go there herself. When Mom went to room 30, she saw two elegantly dressed men in tuxedos with sharp-looking ties. One spoke Polish and the other translated into Russian, and both of them informed Mom that in 20 minutes Mom and Dad had to get ready for their flight. Mom explained that Dad was still out of the premises and that she was not planning to leave without her husband. The guys exchanged Polish words between themselves, looking much inconvenienced, and they asked that Mom and I should go while Dad was to join us on another plane later. Mom insisted as Father told her that she was not going to leave without her husband. The guys wouldn't hear of it, so Mom said to them, "Take my child then," handing my infant self into their amateur hands. "Give her to my husband, and as you say, I'm going to catch my flight." As she started walking away from them, the guys called, "Woman, take your child," while stretching their arms towards Mom as they were holding me. Mom turned around and exclaimed, "Only if you would allow me to wait for my husband and catch the next flight." In a surrendering tone, they said, Yes, just take your child, please." She grabbed me and went back to the room with me. Despite causing a confident scene, Mom started to worry. That came in during the evening of that very same day, and in early morning of the following day, my parents were approached by the same sharp-looking man, saying, "Господин, Sir Ostrovsky, are you through with all of your business here?" Dad said that he was with a sense of satisfaction and victory, and in return they said that Mom and Dad were scheduled to be flying in another 2 hours from that time, and they earnestly urged that Dad would not attempt to go out of the campsite again. As was planned, the next plane was a huge and luxurious Boeing. Like disciplined passengers as instructed, my parents patiently waited for the hour of their flight. Until the hour came to aboard the plane, Mom wistfully sighed by looking around her, thinking that maybe they should stay in Poland because it seemed so nice and beautiful. Mom's daydreaming was interrupted by a young Israeli girl who spoke in broken Russian, asking, "Do you have weapons?" Mom was never asked such a ridiculous question before, but she tried to answer in Hebrew, which was "Ken, yes, or lo, no." But the words escaped her because apparently she didn't study that textbook while in labor very thoroughly. So Mom nodded her head for a no. After that, they were seated in the classiest seats as they were first because they had a small child. The flight attendant brought a small children's bed in which Mom was relieved to put me inside. Mom also asked to warm a bottle of milk as she was afraid that I would be hungry through the 2-hour flight. But I didn't drink, which Mom suspected could have been for the reason that the milk became bitter out of being expired, or she was afraid that I was sick. While putting me inside the bed and sitting in their lavish chairs, my parents were brought headphones to listen to the radio music. It was Mother's first time in her life where she flew in a huge Boeing. I was quietly sleeping throughout the entire flight without disturbing Mom. As Mom listened to the music, she looked out the window and she was fascinated and mesmerized by the fluorescent flashes of the streetlights of the city below. Throughout the entire flight, Dad was comforted by the thought that they had forever got rid of my grandma Kira. As they were approaching Israel, Mom finally saw the Mediterranean Sea, in which the waves looked like the wool of white sheep. It was breathtaking, and as Mom cherished every moment of it, she wanted to read a prayer, but unfortunately she did not know any. Mom started to believe that this beauty must give her happiness in the famous land of milk and honey, which in Hebrew is Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash. Suddenly, Mom was overcome with a feeling of sadness for the thought that no one would be there to greet them. When the airplane landed, because my parents were first, they had the privilege to take first step into the land of dreams first. Dad took all the forks and knives served in the airplane, which served them for later purposes. Mom held me in her hands, and Dad had all the tarpaulins in surprise. In surprise, a huge throng of people came forth towards them, taking pictures of myself, Dad, and Mom with such excitement. Dad thought that he had stepped into heaven, only while they had trench coats on, the sun was prevalently beaming from above. People were taking me into their hands and taking pictures too. To relieve Mom's sadness that nobody was going to meet them, the Jewish nation greeted my parents like their very own with so much warmth and love. While Mom and Dad walked together through the Ben Gurion airport, Mom was stopped by a lady who told Mom that she needed to go with me to a different direction and my dad to another. Thus, Mom was led to a big room with other nursing mothers where they were provided shampoo, conditioner, and a baby cream for free. To Mom's further surprise, I was the cleanest. All the creams that were given to Mom for me, Mom used for the duration of a month, and then I had nothing. Because I didn't eat throughout the entire flight, Mom strictly focused on that task. While Mom was handling me, Dad was signing papers to receive a family fund called Sal Klita, which means a basket of goods, of money which Mom had no idea was received well until later. Mom didn't get any of that money. After Mom finished taking care of me, Mom and I met up with Dad. They rode to a hotel in Tel Aviv where there was a shower and a nice room which also was subsidized. My parents were told, though, that in the morning they had to vacate the hotel. The next day, they were transported to the center of the city of Tel Aviv next to the Mediterranean Sea. Dad asked to wait for him for reasons unknown to. When he came back, my parents were given a choice to go to either Netanya or Ashkelon, but Mom preferred Ashkelon because it was close to the Mediterranean Sea and was known to be an industrialized city. The first week in Israel was like a fairy tale, a fantasy of dreams thanks to governmental subsidies. Nobody was hungry, everybody was clean. As was promised from the hotel in Tel Aviv, they moved to another warm and lavish hotel in Ashkelon that was right next to the Mediterranean Sea for 700 shekels a month that Mom thought Dad was paying from savings that he had collected from Ukraine. They were supplied with everything: food, utensils, plates, and heat. Mostly everybody had been Russian-speaking immigrants. Mom and Dad were placed in a room where there was a cradle ready for me. While living there, Mom was introduced to a lot of exotic foods such as big and juicy apples, bananas, bright green cucumbers, kiwi, avocado, and exquisite cans of child's formula that had a picture of a baby on it. In Ukraine, there were only macaroni and potatoes, completely dull in variety. Dad, however, was very frugal with his money. Mom couldn't afford to buy herself candy or any other stuff that she craved, or even a bottle of water when she was out on the beach with me. She was dying out of dehydration as she watched with greedy eyes those people who had bottles. She hoped that someone would offer something to her. She didn't feel very comfortable drinking from my baby bottle. Had Mother known that Dad received funds for the family, she would have gone into hysterics for him to give her money, but she thought that the frugality was for a justified reason. Mom was particularly attracted to the serenity and the beautiful sight of the sea. She brought me there daily, watching how my childish feet ran through the foamy waves, building sand castles with me and cherishing every moment of our mother-daughter bond. She loved the happy-go-lucky demeanor that I had. It was encouraging and soothing at the same time. Mom wore a two-piece black bathing suit, and her curls glistened from afar because of the wetness of the salty water. Mom had a very seductive and shapely figure at the time. As she was intently observing my free spirit, a beautiful, dark-skinned and brown-eyed man approached her and smiled at her. As he understood that Mom was a recent immigrant, he didn't speak a word of Hebrew. He asked in English, "Do you want a drink?" pointing at his Pepsi Cola. Mom quickly agreed as she was dehydrated. The man offered the drink for both of us, and Mom emptied my bottle of milk, poured Pepsi Cola in it for me to drink, and took the man's bottle. It really warmed Mom's heart that he treated the both of us with a drink, as well as buying an ice cream for each of us. The man introduced himself as Ibrahim. He pointed to a restaurant, hit himself on the chest, and proudly explained, "This is mine." Mom and Ibrahim were talking to each other with hands and legs, since Mom knew very little English as well as practically no Hebrew. Somehow Ibrahim suggested that they should date, but Mom showed her ring in response. Ibrahim smiled and reassuringly said to her that this should not be a problem, with facial and hand gesture connoting that. With these events, Mom returned to the hotel and thought of a woman she knew who spoke English well, who happened to have a child, and Mom's neighbor. Her name was Arina. Mom knocked at her door, and when Arina opened, Mom invited her to go to the sea with her. Arina said that she would like to go only at night. Mom didn't know if Dad would allow her to go at night, so she told Arina that she would ask her husband. As Mom was getting down the stairs with my carriage, Mom heard a familiar voice from a close distance, which was my dad's. Mom expected Dad to be searching for work, and instead he was talking to friends about meeting them in the lobby to watch TV. Mom used that moment to ask his permission to go with Arina to the sea at night and offered him if he would like to come along. Dad hated the sea, so he quickly declined the offer but agreed to let Mom and I go with Arina. When Mom, Arina, her child, along with me, went to the sea, Mom met up with Ibrahim and used Arina as the translator. Through her, Mom found out that Ibrahim had a house in the outskirts of Ashkelon and that he managed that restaurant where they were eating for free. Mom asked him if he had kids. Ibrahim said that he had 30 of them. Mom took it as an exaggerated joke and thought that he had none. Nonetheless, Mom was discomforted by his mustache because it made him look not very Jewish. My dad, by the way, also has a mustache, and he is always thought to look like an Arab, which makes the guards search Dad extra carefully when he's entering certain facilities in Israel. Dad would fume with anger, thinking that it is evasive and often used to cause a scene because of that. But my dad has big, bent Jewish nose that you wouldn't be able to say is not Jewish. Nonetheless, after meeting with Ibrahim, Mom felt guilty for seeing him, and she really wanted Dad to give her some attention. He always was full of business and self-entertainment. Mom had a fight with him, saying that he was ignoring her and convincing him to go to the sea with her. Dad finally agreed to go, and he didn't like it. The water was too salty, the sky was too blue, the sun was too hot, the sand wasn't soft enough, and many more complaints. After that experiment, Mom developed her own company that she hung out with and Dad his own. Because of father's neglect, Mom was slowly attracted to Ibrahim, who was a beautiful man who had dark and mesmerizing eyes, wide shoulders, and was very ripped in shape. He looked like one of the musketeers with his mustache. He treated Mom and I with food, drove us in a silver Subaru to the archaeological site of Park Samson, Shimshon, and bought ice cream and children's toys. Ashkelon is where the story of Samson happened, Samson and Delilah to be exact. The story ends with Samson betrayed by Delilah and his eyes were poked out and he was chained to a building that eventually, with God's power through him, Samson managed to get it to collapse and he died in the rubble. So the remnants of Samson's story are existing at that park. Mom complained to Ibrahim about Dad, and Ibrahim said that if Mom were to have problems with Dad that she should call, and he gave her his business card. Mom preserved it. In a couple of weeks, my parents moved out from the luxurious and warm hotel to an Azochenveisky, godforsaken house where there was no hot water and a really crumbled closet. The house was big and very damp. The roof leaked, and it was very cheap in value, for which reason Dad decided to move into such uninhabitable conditions. As soon as Mom entered that dilapidated house, Mom formed the impression that from a fairy tale quality of living, she was sent by the royalty into a dungeon. A little after my parents settled into that house, I started violently crying throughout the nights, and I was overcome by childish vigilance. I was around 10 months old. In the morning, Mom went to the kitchen to make a warm porridge for me and tried to calm me down. As she entered the kitchen, Mom was tenderly greeted by happily marching and squeaking mice as if celebrating a festival. Upon seeing such grotesque creatures, Mom stepped on a chair, grabbed me in her hands, and started to scream at the top of her lungs as I cried in a shrill scream with her. Mom was really afraid that these creatures would jump on her. Mom and I screamed like that maybe for the duration of half an hour, until His Highness Dad was woken up from his beauty sleep. Finally, he came forth into the kitchen, the provider of the house, all disheveled, with a hairy, bare stomach, wearing woman's rosy shorts. With a very sleepy and hoarse voice, he asked, "What happened?" As disturbed neighbors knocked at the door. Mom opened the door while asking Dad in a panic if he knew of a way of catching mice. Dad said that he didn't, so the knocking neighbors explained where a mousetrap could be bought. To calm the situation down, Dad went and bought the instructed mousetraps. The next morning, Mom went into the kitchen again to cook something for me, and this time Mom spotted those creatures pitifully stuck on the mousetrap, staring at Mom with big, imploring eyes as if to ask to let them free. Mom turned and said to them, "Wait for my husband and he will set you free from your pain. You guys, I'm helpless." Finally came my dad in bright red shorts during the winter season, and upon seeing Mom, he asked, "Why didn't you drown them?" Mom said that he should do whatever he pleased with them himself and give them a funeral if he wanted to. She was not going to touch them. From wherever Father came from, Dad brought with him some archaic-looking pot that Mom tried to scrub, but to no avail. Mom gave up on the pot, and to get away from the poor mice, Mom resorted to taking a stroll with me to the local children's park. There, Mom met with yesterday's neighbor, and she found her name to be Sarah. She was a Georgian Jew who spoke Russian with an accent and spoke perfect Hebrew as well. Sarah noted that she heard me violently scream at night, which she explained was not a good sign. She told Mom to go to the nearest hospital, showing Mom where it was and specifically instructing her to go to the children's pediatrics along with bringing her ID, Teudat Zeut. Unfortunately, Mom couldn't go that very same day because it was a Saturday, but taking these instructions close to heart, Mom went home and saw through the neighboring windows how people were watching TV and relaxing as it was the weekend. Mom got jealous because there wasn't even a radio in the house. There wasn't anything except from joyful congregations of mice. The next morning, as Mom was instructed, Mom went to the hospital with me, where, to her luck, there wasn't a long line. I looked very red, had a high temperature, and didn't sleep through the night. Upon seeing the doctor, he said that I had a very serious ear infection along with a case of pneumonia, and the doctor was very mad at Mom for not coming sooner. Because it was only 10 months old, if it went untreated, the case could have turned out fatal. Before my parents moved into that house, I wasn't sick. It wasn't until they moved into that horrible house. Due to Dad's twisted priorities, my sickness flared to all directions. Dad did the minimal amount of shopping and did not want to buy some necessities such as plates, some heater apparatus, and even menstrual pads for Mom. Mom had to dry my diapers and reuse them for her purposes. Even when Mom's feet were soaking wet out of leaking roof, and Mom complained to Dad that suggested to wear plastic bags on her feet and to walk with them throughout the house. Dad was on a mission to save money, and that was what was important for him. Because of my severe condition, Mom had to visit the hospital twice a day for them to perform a respiratory procedure that fights against pneumonia by placing a certain breathing mask onto my face to clear out my bacterial lungs and allow me to breathe more easily. When Mom returned home from these treatments with me, the house was cold and Mom started to insist on getting a heater. That solution was to iron the bed sheets, hoping that would make them warm. At the time that Mom was taking me to treatments, she was strongly advised not to carry me inside the carriage because the continuous rain could worsen my condition. So Mom had to carry me on herself, which was very straining and toilsome on her. While Mom was struggling with this, Dad was screaming at Mom, demanding to know why she didn't cook for him. Mom said that maybe he should go to the hospital with me while she would cook something for him. Dad said that he was very busy finding a job, even though Mom didn't see any money coming in. Mother caused a scandal and demanded a divorce. Not knowing how it was to be done, Dad took Mom to the Rabbanut, which is the way to divorce for religious people, though later Mom found out they have to go through them. Because Mom and Dad had a small child, they insisted on shalom mishpacha, family peace. And besides, Mom came to the Rabbanut, where there were rabbis with a cross on her chest, and they said that they thought Mom got to the wrong place. Mom constantly wore that cross from Olga Nikolaevna without taking it off. Due to uncomfortable and unprosperous conditions of life, Mom wrote a letter to Grandma, and she indicated her phone and her address. Uncle Willie in California sent in response warm clothes for me and $200, which was a lot of money back then. The neighbors also sensed that there was something terribly amiss, so they put under the door a pile of warm children's clothes. Mom was so grateful. Mom was urgently referred by the neighbors to the Sachnut, which is the Israeli government subsidy that gave Mom checks directed for warm blankets. That year of 1991, Israel was going through the harshest winter, with floods of rain that had never happened in the history of Israel's existence. Mom lost a lot of weight due to the conditions of the house. She weighed 55 kilograms, which is 121 pounds, the lowest she had ever weighed in her adult existence. In the pediatric unit, where Mom was consistently visiting with me, Mom bumped into Alina, the friend from the hotel that helped translate. When Mom saw her, she erupted into tears out of relief. Mom told her everything, and Alina suggested Mom live at her place temporarily, saying that it was warm and dry there. Without any second thoughts or the slightest hesitation, Mom glowed with happiness at the offer. That very same day, Mom went home, gathered all the warm blankets and the warm children's clothes that all fit into one suitcase, grabbed me, and left nothing of value except for Dad's favorite pot. In Alina's house, Mom and I were showered with warmth, and I started progressively recuperating from my pneumonic condition. When Mom was told by the doctors that I was completely healthy, Mom felt uncomfortable continuing to live and press on the economy of Irina's house, so Mom called Uncle Yura, who was the son of my great-grandmother's sister Runa, as I mentioned before. My grandmother had indicated his phone number and the address through the letters that Mom and Grandma were exchanging. Mom told him about her situation, that she had $200 on her and that she had nowhere to live, essentially asking Uncle Yura if Mom were able to move in temporarily with them until she figured things out. Uncle Yura agreed. While living with Alina, Mom tried to get a hold of the joint account that Mom shared with Dad, but by the time she wanted to withdraw some money, the account was closed. Only with the money from Willie, as it was established, Alina accompanied Mom to the cultural central bus station, the Hanana Gazit, and she showed Mom which bus to take to Tel Aviv. In return, Mom hugged her and thanked her for saving both her own life and the life of her child. Alina gently reminded Mom not to forget about Ibrahim, and she soulfully wished her happiness. Since then, Mom has never seen her again. Mom entered the bus, and as she headed towards Tel Aviv, she reminisced of the caring attitude of the neighbors and practically opened the arms of strangers. She looked at my innocent self, and although understanding that there were more tempestuous ways of hardships that would cross her path, Mom had to persevere, if not for the sake of her, but at least for the survival of her little ones.